All right, welcome to Mate Selection Part 2, The Mirror. In Part 1, I laid out a way to filter, a three-step process for selecting a partner based on the life you want, the character you're looking for, and the actual patterns of the person in front of you. It's all aimed outward, at the future, and at them. But something happened to me recently that flipped the lens around, and I think it's the more important half of the story. First, a little context. I'm coming up on 2 years since my divorce, and in that time, I'd made peace with being single. More than that, I developed a quiet skepticism about the romantic industrial complex. I started running a cold little calculation in the back of my head. If you're going to enter into an intimate relationship, you're adding layers of complexity to your life. There's more to manage, there's more to negotiate, more that can go wrong. So how do you know that the return will be worth the investment? I mean, at my age, with a full life already, is a new relationship really worth the effort? I hadn't locked the door on it exactly, but I had stopped expecting anyone to walk through it. And then someone did. Now, I'm going to keep her out of this on purpose. I don't have her permission to tell her story, and this really isn't about her anyway. Here's all you need to know. We met, we spent some real time together over a stretch of weeks, and very early on, we made a deal. The deal was inspired by Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory. I named the trap out loud, the performance trap I described at the end of part 1, the one where two people, desperate to impress, quietly stop being themselves. Her presence could be intoxicating enough that a person might do anything to keep it, including pretend to be someone they're not. So rather than pretend the trap wasn't there, we decided to disarm it. I'll let you be you, we agreed, and you let me be me. And then, after a while, we each get to decide, honestly, whether that's the kind of person we want in our life. Simple, right? And a little harder than it sounds. But we did it, I think, about as well as two people can. And I'll tell you where that went in a minute. First, I have to tell you what it taught me, because that's the part that matters. We started texting between meetings, and I noticed something that, at first, really bothered me. She took a long time to reply, like long. I'd send something and then nothing. Hours, sometimes a day. And I noticed my own mind doing something interesting. It labeled her cadence as wrong. Not different, but wrong. My ego had quietly appointed itself the standard against which all texting was to be judged, and she was failing the test. Then, thankfully, I caught myself. I tried on her point of view. If her natural rhythm was slow and considered, then my rapid-fire replies must have looked a little frantic from where she sat. Maybe I was the strange one. So here's what I decided. Her cadence wasn't wrong. It was just different. What I'd actually done was mistake my pattern for the pattern. I'd assumed that the way I do things was simply the way things are done. And it isn't. And neither is yours. Here's the trap. And almost nobody sees it coming. The longer we live, the deeper we settle into the grooves of our own lives, our patterns, our cadence, our rhythm, our particular way of moving through the day. And somewhere along the line, we start to believe all of this is normal. But it isn't normal, because there's no such thing as normal. There's only what we've gotten used to. And the thing every one of us is most thoroughly used to is our own self. I'd been single and unpartnered for nearly 2 years, marinating in my own patterns with no one to reflect them back to me. And I'd quietly crowned my own habits as the baseline of reality. It took someone with a different rhythm and a small dumb thing like text message timing to show me that the crown was there at all. So here's the gift hiding inside the filter. While you're busy examining your partner's patterns, you get a rare chance to finally see your own. The filter you build for someone else turns out to be a mirror as well. Now, a fair warning, because I don't want to oversell this. You can't manufacture this insight alone. You need a counterpart, a real person whose patterns rub against yours, before you can catch yourself in the act of judging. On your own, you'll never see it. I mean, the water is invisible to the fish, right? So if you're single and reading this, just tuck this away. Know that the moment you start getting close to someone, you will catch yourself labeling their perfectly reasonable way of being as wrong. When that moment comes, don't take the bait. Don't slide into judgment. Stay in curiosity instead about them and about yourself. Get curious about why their rhythm bugs you. That curiosity is where all the good stuff lives. Now, we have to address an important moment in this whole process of finding a mate. There's a shift that has to happen once you've actually chosen someone, and it trips a lot of people up. Selection mode is about discrimination, filtering hard, being ruthless about alignment, holding the line on what you need and what you want. That's the work we talked about in part 1. But the day you commit, you have to set the filter down and pick up something else entirely. You shift from discrimination to acceptance. And this only works if you did the front-end filtering honestly. Because if you selected well, your Venn diagrams already overlap significantly, and acceptance isn't a strain, it's a relief. But acceptance doesn't mean you both freeze in place. This is where the pattern work continues and where it gets a little delicate. Once you're partners, you start to play with your patterns, getting curious about them, holding them loosely, and exploring whether some of them are worth rewriting. Now, I want you to note the pronoun. You rewrite your patterns, not theirs. The moment the thought, they'd be perfect if only they change, echoes in your head, you're back to marrying potential, and you owe it to both of you to stop. Nobody wants to be somebody else's renovation project. Here's the crucial part, the piece I don't want you to miss. This rewriting can't be one person quietly contorting themselves to accommodate the other. That's not love, that's just slow self-erasure, and it breeds resentment every time. The rewriting has to be negotiated out loud, together, through honest conversation about what each of you needs and what each of you is willing to adapt. I mean, love is adaptability, the saying goes, and I believe it. But adaptability only works when it runs in both directions. Scott Galloway put it about as well as anyone. He said, "In the most successful relationships I know, both parties have embraced the value of living up to their partner's expectations." Both parties. When only one person is doing the adapting while the other sits back and receives, that's not a dance. That's one person trying to dance and one person standing still, wondering why their feet keep getting stepped on. Well, I told you earlier that I'd tell you how it ended with this woman I met. Well, it ended. We spent our time, we stayed honest, we let each other be exactly who we are, and in doing that, we both arrived without drama at the same quiet conclusion. This isn't it. The frequencies just don't align. We didn't force it. We didn't perform our way into a false positive that would have cost us months or years to undo. We figured it out early and we're both fine, like genuinely fine. And here's the thing that surprises me even as I shoot this video. I'm grateful for the whole thing because I went in a skeptic, maybe even a cynic, quietly convinced the effort probably wasn't worth the return. And I came out with my skepticism dismantled. This brief, ordinary, ultimately unmatched connection woke something up in me I had assumed was dead. It reminded me that the right partnership with someone whose frequencies you can actually align and reciprocate with is worth more than the cold calculation ever leads you to believe. Like, so worth it. So let me say it plainly, especially to those of you standing where I was standing. If you've closed the door on the possibility of love, I understand. But maybe just don't lock it. And if the door's still open, but you're weary, tallying up the effort and wondering whether any of it pays off, don't lose heart. It is so worth it. Clarify what you actually want. Build the filter. Then be brave enough to look in the mirror it hands back to you. Do that, and you just might start to see what was invisible all along. And once you can see it, you can go pursue it. So what do you think? I would love to hear your comments, especially if you're somewhere out there in the mating and dating market, running your own filter and catching your own reflection. And if any of this resonated, I go much deeper into vision, patterns, and building an intentional life in my new book, Surfing the Invisible Wave, which is available now. You can find all the details at invisiblewave.surf.